Hello everyone, welcome back to my backyard street lighting display. What you're looking at today is a GE Form 109 street light from 1953 or 54. The Form 109 came out in 1949 after the release of the OB-20 happened about 3 years earlier in 1946. GE responded with this very oblong-shaped fixture. It is different in every angle you look at it, which is cool. It's kind of got like a triangular, round sort of glass. It's very weird. And the idea behind this was to avoid annoying Westinghouse with a copycat design, although they did that later on anyway, and also providing a fairly similar light output, or rather light distribution between the two. Because the OB-20 kind of is a squarish distribution of light, and so are these. So, pretty good actually, they both do really well. And these are not common as much anymore as they used to be, despite selling fairly decently from 49 to 54. I'll kind of show you why in a minute, but I want to show you the ballast can it's hooked up to, which is actually also from 1953. It's not the one that this came with. But it's still pretty cool. So, this one was hooked up to a remote ballasted Cooper OVM, or Krauss-Heinz, whatever, which originally this would have been on a Form 109 as well. There's the tag. You can see the date code and all that fun stuff. You know, this does work. It's a CWA ballast. And, it's kind of neat. It's the same age as the fixture. The fixture itself was actually on a steel pole, so it would have had a pole top ballast, or it did, and this was functioning, but LEDs or whatever, you know, the future. So unfortunately this relic came down for that, but luckily it was saved. I had two of these. I sold one to one of my best friends who actually happens to really like these, to the point where he named his lighting gallery username and his YouTube channel Form 109. So yeah, it's really cool to have one of these. Have it on a national upsweep arm, which is a brand probably most of y'all haven't ever heard of, but yeah, anyways, these were paired with this arm a lot around here on wooden poles, but they were also used on freeways and city streets. This one came out of a downtown of a small town that decided they didn't want these anymore, I guess, so oh well, it is what it is. I'm about to show you why these are not very popular anymore, or common, I should say. Let me just scooch the camera out of the way and unlatch this thing. So, the primary reason why these are really uncommon is due to the glass and it being effectively not replaceable. They, for whatever reason, felt the need to just press it on, or press fit it in for no reason, other than to be cheap, I guess. And so, whenever these break, you just have this tub with no glass, and the downside is the glassware is about 75 to 85% of the light distribution. So once you remove that, it doesn't spread light as good, because all it has is a dinky little reflector up here, and then, you know, the little ribs and stuff inside, and that's it. So as you can see, the bulb is actually part of the hinged optical assembly, But the nice thing is, unlike older ones where the socket would actually be kind of here, it kind of sticking in a weird area up top in the head, they moved it down into the optical assembly and it latches and removes, so you can relamp it and remove this entirely. But people don't realize that when they're taking these apart or trying to relamp it, so a lot of times these wires get ripped off from the sockets, and instead of replacing them, they just replace the whole fixture. To install it, you have to pull the reflector off, and there's the terminal block up there. And since this is a newer fixture designed for EH1 bulbs, which are the first iteration of quartz arc tube mercury, they do not have an arc centering magnet in this fixture. Normally it would be right up there where the terminal block is, and what that did is on a medium pressure glass arc tube mercury lamp, which I have one of those, but it's not outside right now. Over time, it being horizontal, the arc tube would sag and then the life would be shortened on the lamp. So they countered that by putting a magnet that pulls the mercury and gas, keeps the arc stream straight, and the lamp lasts longer. But this was made in a time where quartz was already around, so instead it just has a little holder for a BT lamp right there to keep it secure. And yes, that is a lifeguard in a GE fixture, because I don't have any other BT shaped lamps in GE flavor besides a bonus line that only works in certain positions. And so it is what it is. But yeah, I guess I'll get back up here for one last thing, show you the kind of the head construction. It's got two little NEMA style latches there, one on each side. It's front hinged and a street side socket obviously. And then those two screws just pop off and the reflector goes away, and it's got a regular old slip fitter. So nothing too fancy here. It's got a cool little like, fin on it. And yeah, so go ahead and put it back together and fire it up. So since I was talking about how these get replaced a lot, the ballast can is a great example, because the fixture it was with was a replacement for a likely damaged Form 109. They've just put in an empty housing Cobra head and ran it off the old ballast. So I'll go ahead and start this thing up. There you go. And despite the fact that this thing is ancient, Ballast is quiet. Just like the Westinghouse one over there, which is 2 years newer than the GE one and looks a lot nicer honestly in terms of actual design, but it is what it is. So yeah, these another interesting fact about the glass is that it's actually the same footprint as the M400 glass and Form 400 glass. So in theory, if you did separate the lens from the fixture, which is not an easy task, you could actually put this on something newer and that would look kind of funny. But I don't want to go through that with this, because this is my only Form 109 and it's in great shape. There's no reason to mutilate it for that. But it is possible with will to replace the glass on these, but it's never going to be the same, so that's why it never is done. It also takes too much time. So that's pretty much the downfall of probably 60% of these lights, is simply the fact that in really no form they are user-friendly. Be it replacement of glass, lamp replacement, because linemen probably aren't trained on the process and they get frustrated and they just are like, you know what, screw it, I'm just going to replace this whole thing. And they just do. Because it's not easy to replace the bulbs in these. It's very annoying, and putting the bulb and socket back and making it, you know, accurate is also annoying, especially when these things are old, so that's a big reason why these get replaced. I wouldn't even know exactly what to call this because it's not really a clamshell, but it's also not a teardrop. It's kind of like a hybrid between the two. And GE definitely didn't have to worry about looking like Westinghouse because this thing is very weird looking, but I like them. They're cool. I didn't grow up with these, actually, but my area did use them a lot on freeways and other areas, but like I said, they mostly got removed. There's still a couple left, but they're not very common anymore. I think this town might still have one left where I got this from that missed the LED conversion somehow. Last I checked anyway. But yeah, it's really cool to have one of these. And I did make a video of this yesterday, but I had my information on the ballast date wrong, so I wanted to remake it. So, in terms of like construction, it's like a mixture of really cheap and kind of decent, actually. The head itself has a fairly nice casting, like the top part where the fin is. Slip fitter's pretty good, but the actual, you know, optical assembly is really not great. I think the reason it got more ribs is due to like increased light distribution. Because when these were still in service, since I've seen them in their actual native habitat, this specific light, there was one street where each block just had one light. And it lit up the whole thing. Granted, it was a short block, but still, it was incredible. So, pretty good distribution. Also, the 3 lights here are pretty common in small towns around here, so it's kind of a cool lineup. The OV25 EB and the regular OV25 and the Form 109. It's pretty neat. Let me show you the health of the ballast too, because I forgot to mention that. I have it on a kilowatt meter. So, right now it's drawing about 3.9 amps. Going up. Got a power factor of 0.95. The highest I've gotten is 9.7, which is really incredible because closer to 1 you are, the better. And it's drawing pretty much the exact watts it should be, 442 or so. This thing is remarkably in good shape. This was definitely the last era of GE being any good. Because after this, they really tanked in quality. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. Draws the rated amps on the tag. The power factor is pretty solid. It gets to full brightness. Draws the right amount of watts. And it's silent. What more could you ask for? This is definitely one of my more unique fixtures I have, although not the rarest, but is definitely a peculiar design. And lime material with their Ovalite made a similar kind of design, but the glass was replaceable and it was easier to replace the bulbs, so kind of one-upped GE on that. I don't have an Ovalite from that era. I wish I did, but unfortunately I do not. Maybe someday. So for now, you just have to enjoy this. But This is a longer video than usual, but there's a lot more to show on this light, I guess. So that's really all I have to say about it. It's pretty cool. Happy to have it. Glad it got saved. And these are really cool. One of my favorite lights, even though I didn't really grow up with them. So yeah. And they have a better light distribution than the Form 400 M400s after it. So, like I said, I think this was, in most respects, one of GE's better times, but for serviceability, it's not so great. So, you know, pros and cons, right? But yeah, I think that's really it. And shut it off there, and thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoyed.